Welcome back to the Robezoid channel. I'm your host, Mark, and on the docket today, we are taking a test drive. It feels like it's been at least a month. I feel like I've been doing a lot of unboxings recently. Nothing with real steak and potatoes, right? We've all been talking about appetizers here with unboxing, so it's nice to have finally a test drive here that I can start talking about development in that. And I've had some time with Cuir here. So Cuir by Guerlain, which was once part of the Absolu d'Orient collection, which this Middle Eastern collection had some different transformations, as you can see, these bottles, which I prefer personally. And then they axed Rose Nacré, which is right here. This thing got axed back in the day. And then they, of course, made this line. They put a couple in this line, and this one, of course, discontinue Ambre Eternelle, which is probably the unicorn of this lineup. But this lineup is now part of the rebranded Absolu Allegoria line. So again, not a big change to the bottles. You'll see they look like the Allegorias there that are over my head here, the Freshies, the cheaper ones. So the bottles kind of look like that. Not a big change. I do see some of them that have been transferred to that line and some that have not. So keep that in mind. My bottle is from a 2020 haul, so obviously it's an old version. I haven't smelt the new Absolu Allegoria line, so I feel like they probably just did the right thing and just rebottled them. And there's no real change to the fragrances, but you never know when the bottles change. A big change to a line like that, you never know. But personally, I can't tell you if this particular fragrance, which got moved to the new line, is it still the same one. I'm just happy I got the old one. Now, onto the scent itself, and I'm happy to doing a test drive here because this is this is right up my wheelhouse. As far as genres go, as types of fragrances that I absolutely love, leather's right up there. I feel like if you got a good, like just a solid leather note and everything surrounds it is kind of interesting, you've won me over. You know, the leather portion's pretty important. You have to have a really good leather. Like there's a lot of designer leathers that are no bueno. But this one right here is absolutely gorgeous. And I love when leathers go big, bold with smoky or animalic facets, like a leather oud or a cuir by Mona Ziorio have that animalic facet. But there's a lot of leathers with a big, bold, smoky aspect as well. They go hand in hand, and that's probably my favorite part of the leather genre. This is not in that. It's right below it. Like it has some facets, but I wouldn't classify this as a smoky leather or an animalic leather. There's you know, ones that utilize civet and castoreum to really make it animalic. It's not on that level, but this one right here, I was really impressed with the unboxing of it back in 2020. You can go back to YouTube. I think I unboxed this with Comme des Garçons Black. What a haul that was. Both excellent scents, but yeah, I was really loving the introduction of this, but this video is all about development, what the bulk of the fragrance is all about. It's not just the introduction. So I'm going to talk about, of course, development, projection, longevity, seasons, things like that. But I was really impressed with this 4 years back, and I can't believe it's been 4 years since I've had this bottle. And this line has had some, you know, additions, the Patchouli Ardent and the Épices Keys, je pense. Yeah, I think it's that one. Both got transferred to the new line too, and I should be searching those out at discounters before it's too late. Just that whole FOMO to kind of finish up the line here. But yeah, let's delve into Cuir Intense now. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I'd appreciate it if you haven't already. If you're a fan of this work, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And smash that like button too. I really appreciate it. It brings my videos up in the algorithm a little bit more. So you have this we're not too worried about. Guerlain does not give out free stuff. Not that much. They do. I've seen it. But not as much as other brands. So let's delve into it. Let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats. Not too many stats here, released back in 2019. So I bought it a year later, basically right after its launch. The nose, Thierry Wasser, in-house Perfume for Guerlain. His experience with leathers, he's got some experience, but I don't know, I'm trying to think, is this his best work with the note? Most likely. I'd have to take a look at the resume again, but excellent nose, excellent perfumier. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been kicked out of the brand yet. They're hanging on to him because other brands like Elena, like the old heads are kind of getting kicked out. Elena got kicked out, Demachi got kicked out. It's just an amount of time when Wasser is going to get kicked out. And he already has his replacement that has been kind of groomed for years now with Guerlain. But I'm happy he's still at the helm and still making fragrances. Now, the major notes to my nose on this one, absolutely leather is your 1A. It really is a huge portion of this fragrance. You're going to get leather from start to finish. And that's what a great leather-based fragrance does. You want it to be primary, and you want it to be primary the whole life of the fragrance, and it is here. The other notes are secondaries that really amplify your primary note. Now, tobacco is a big portion of this fragrance. Now, it's not a big, bold tobacco note. Now, a lot of, again, talking about my favorite notes of all time, tobacco's in there, but it really helps the idea of this leather-based scent. It really doesn't steal the spotlight, we'll say. And osmanthus. Now there's a couple florals in this release, but the osmanthus really, really works well with leather. In the past, it does. It actually has leathery aspects in the note, but it really blends well, and it really gives this fragrance some of its personality early on in the fragrance. So let's delve into it. I'm wearing it as my scent of the day. I'm living with it right now. Absolutely love it. The room smells like Cuir. So let's, I have my strip here that I usually have strips when I'm testing. I'm probably testing for, give or take, I have a desk over here, probably around 50 of these. And all I do is like late at night, you know, if I have a little bit of time, I just start going hard on certain fragrance reviews that are coming up, kind of finishing some off, starting some new. So it's kind of a mess over there, but you know, this thing is just as good as first sprayed. But let's remind me of the introduction. And look at this atomizer, very good atomizer on this. So if you have to give it an atomizer score, 10 out of 10, really good. Oh, this is good. And it's it's funny because it's a notch down, and I know a lot of people are going to say in the comments like, what are you talking about, a notch down? This thing's beast mode. You know, if you've ever smelled Cuir by Mona D'Orio and Leather Oud, and those are like kind of like my benchmark. There's a bunch of great leathers that are really strong, big, bold, and I mean big and bold. Those two are my benchmark. They're my 1A, 1B, basically. I can't go without those two. And those fragrances are a wallop. Like if I spray those, I'm done for the day. Like the house is done for the day, I'm done for the day. They're beastly. Now this has some push to it, and I know that I'm gonna get some comments going, what do you mean it's like a step below that? It kind of is. But the opening of Cuir Intense, it's excellently done for a leather. And you know immediately, if you have experience with leather scents, that this is a true blue leather scent. It's built for us, the leather lovers. You won't be disappointed here, as Wasser really gave us what we wanted in this gel. Now the leather note starts off as there's no real winding up period, we'll say, for the leather scent. And you'll see that in some leather scents that it has like a stepping stone before the leather engulfs you. Here, there's no winding up period here. It's big and bold right out of the gate. The leather note really smells. It has an industrial feel to it. It has a powdery aspect to it. It has an oily aspect to it. It really smells like tanned leather to my nose, and it really is well composed. So I moved the family tree. It's up there if any of you want to see the eye candy. I moved them out because I want to unclutter this section, because I want to give the spotlight to the fragrance. Now, describing it as a tanned leather is not good enough. This is a dry, salty, oily leather. Think of a worn, rough leather saddle on a horse. It just has that worn feeling to it, but it also has like, it's been through some work days and has that oily, rough, salty, leathery, slightly animalic, but it doesn't smell like you walked into an Hermes store, brand new purses and jackets. It's not on that level. It has that Middle Eastern kind of feel to it, which I absolutely love. And it goes through the, the theme of this line. Now the leather in here can come off slightly animalic. And I hate saying that word because people go, stop. They just stop the review right there and they go, animalics, no. There's no funk here. There's no civet. There's no castoreum. There's no barnyardy kind of smell here. And I want to actually, really say that. But it has that raw leather feel. And that's what I'm trying to convey here as animalic, not civet, not barnyardy, not castoreum like. The leather also smells like there's a slight tannery chemicals. Like it has that oily kind of feel on the saddle. The leather will start off the scent and end it. So it'll never let up. But it's a true blue leather scent. Like it's gorgeous. That note is absolutely like any real leatherhead will know immediately if they're gonna like this or not. I don't think there's middle ground here. There's no learn to like it after a few hours. No, this is either you like it or you hate it in the first couple minutes because it really doesn't move much out of that. Now, the two florals come into play here. They have a place here. They really do. They share the spotlight now, and they share the spotlight early. Obviously, they are the top notes, but the osmanthus is the one that really impressed me in this one. And in my opinion, osmanthus always had like a leathery touch to it as a note, depending on the perfume, but it probably really does help this leathery idea that we're getting here. But also, apricot is super famous in the perfumery world as this osmanthus, giving out this apricot-like vibe or a peachy vibe. I feel more apricot, like a dried fruit kind of vibe, and it's such a beautiful balance between this apricot and this leathery touch. They just work so well together. And like if I would have to say in percentage, 35% of this opening is the osmanthus, that apricot. So you're getting not a lot, but you can't miss it. You really can't. And the leather kind of takes that extra 65%. And then, of course, there's nuances to each note. Ylang Ylang is in here as well. It is the second floral in here. And the only thing it really pushes to me personally in this one is you almost want to make it seem like it's ombre. See, like it has this waxy quality, like almost like crayon like, even with the little piece of paper around it, like almost kind of thinking like ombre iris, but not on that level. It's not big or bold in this release, but when you're really dissecting this like I do, I really feel it. And it's a really neat trick in this release, and it gives this scent another piece of complexity, which is on the outside looking in, it's a really linear scent and easy to describe scent. Like if you just said this is a leathery scent with a little bit of a peachy nuance in the back or in the front, you'd be right. That is basically the big picture of this thing. But for me personally, sitting there and kind of dissecting this thing, this is an amazing trick with the nose behind this, and it just has some understated complexity to it. I also felt beyond this waxy quality, there is also slight powdery aspects as well in this opening, so keep that in mind. Clearly in this opening, the fruity apricot is the biggest factor though, out of all these factors that I've talking about. But the other pieces really give this rather linear scent some complexity to a frag head like me. It kind of gives me some exciting parts to dissect. Now the tobacco itself it shows some colors of it in the front end, but it really is more dense in the back end of this really. So the tobacco shows more of a smoky side here. And again, I want to be careful with the smoky leather because some people may think like big smoky, big, no, no, no. The smoke itself is very slight, but it's there. And this note will blossom, of course, more in the dry down, but here you get that slight smoke and some of that texture that tobacco would give. So again, giving it some complexity. The opening is absolutely gorgeous in this fragrance. I absolutely loved testing this fragrance. This was one that I probably should have shot this video back in March. Like I'm thinking of the last test drive I did. I think it was back in March. So we're almost getting there now. It's been a while and I've been kind of really testing this thing. I'm like, okay, I think it's time to shoot the video. But this opening is gorgeous. It has some understated complexity, which I love. Like that's a true frag head loves this kind of stuff. It's not just a leather with some apricot, but I really enjoyed how the leather and osmanthus really danced together. That was the really big factor in this opening that really sold me. But then that waxy quality comes in, a little bit of that smoke, a little bit of those tobacco nuances, that oily texture to going to almost the leather, thinking of a leather saddle that it's worn. Gorgeous, gorgeous opening. So now moving into the mid and the deeper dry down of this release, I've kind of given you all the textures and everything I really felt about the big notes in this. And there's not much movement in here, so it doesn't develop much. So a lot of the bulk of this video is going to be about the introduction, but don't get me wrong, a lot of those nuances continue into the end of the fragrance. I'm just not going to repeat myself now. The leather continues to push. It's still your central. The facets of the florals, they start mellowing even more. So definitely that, the osmanthus, that apricot feel really is the one that gets hit the most. The other ones were very light to the fragrance in the opening, but they really just kind of go to a whisper. But the apricot takes the biggest hit in here and you lose that. But it starts opening up more to darker notes. So I start seeing more of the woods here. And I didn't really touch upon the woods, but there's some woody aspects in the front end. But really everything else was more interesting and more about the introduction. I really wanted to talk about those in the intro, but it's mostly cedar wood in this back end. Some people are saying like there's no oud listed in the note, but people are saying like there is a dusty factor in here, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a westernized oud in here, but cedar wood is what I'm getting. I'm getting those cedar planks. You start sensing some Middle Eastern type dustiness and musks, which really pieces this together with the rest of the line, which I put up there. It really puts it with the rest of the line. And I really like that I was like, okay, yeah. And this is the line that a lot of the real Guerlain heads, you know, the ones with their nose up, don't like this line. This is not the true blue line from Guerlain. But there is some really great stuff here. The leather continues to push. You still get that mild smoke from the tobacco. The dried tobacco shows a little more facets, but still giving the leather its spotlight. So again, tobacco is a huge note, and depending on how it's utilized by the nose, could engulf and be just a tobacco-based scent at the back end. Leather morphs into tobacco. Not here. It really is a strong secondary that really goes, it's your show, but I will give you more nuances. So the darker tones kind of darken up a little bit more. And to be clear, anyone that has experience with leathers like me, when I mention smoke and things like that, I really want to be clear that this is not big, bold smoke. It's a whisper, as leathers, especially the bolder ones, do have that punch of smoke. This isn't it. So that's not in that genre. This is much more, dare I say, cleaner. I don't want to say that because it really is more, like if I'm talking about Dior leather oud and Cuir Monadiario as the placeholders, they're at the top of the hill, the peak. This is like a step down. That's it. It's right there with some of the better fragrances, the leather-based ones. So ending this fragrance as a leathery, slightly woody, musky, and tobacco back in fragrance. Excellent from top to bottom. Really enjoyed this. And overall, not a unique leather. Like in the game, if I'm looking at leathers, this doesn't stray too much away from the game. Like this is not a, oh wow, how different and daring and crazy and off the cuff Wasser did with this one. No, he, as much as this is a bold scent, I mean, he really played it kind of safe-ish. Like it really is towing that line, but it's unique enough of a leather that that you're gonna like this. But it's not, you know, if you own over a dozen leathers, especially some of the bigger ones, you may think that this is nothing new and you're gonna pass on it, and I can see why. But I do want to note, first of all, well, in the middle of this review, this is blended expertly by Wasser. Like, he really showed his skill in this release. I just loved how this was blended. Not the boldest of the leathers in the game, but just enough to keep me interested, and just enough power to it, and to really, for me to enjoy this one. So let's go into seasons, day, night, versatility, and performance. Seasons, fall and winter best. A cool night will work. Going from day to night, I think this is more of a nighttime scent. I could see this as a casual use for somebody. Somebody that's in a cooler climate like I am here in Canada. You can almost extend this to 3 seasons, maybe even 4, because their summer nights are almost as cool as some people's winters. So you can extend the life of this one depending. I haven't really worn it extensively into the heat, but that's my assumption with my experience with fragrances. And again, that goes to, you know, a test drive versus an actual fragrance review from me. There's a big difference there. A versatility below average. It does have its hindrances depending where you are in your journey. Everything encompassing, it does have its versatility issues, I would say, just because of its boldness. Performance, chameleon-like. And that's the first thing I just want to say, chameleon-like. And what do I mean by that is that you think it's gone, it's back. And I'm talking about like short spurts and long spurts. Like, it's almost like I've worn this and I'd be like, oh, it's gone. You know, I'm going to bed. I don't really feel like wearing anything tonight. I already wore this. It was, you know, attacking my nose. I'm good, but it's gone. I'm going to bed. I wake up in the morning and there it is again. And I'm like, excuse me? It's been 18 hours. So longevity is 9 to 12 plus hours. And there's some solid projection. And the one thing I do have to mention about this release, and that's for the people that love beast mode stuff, this one right out the gate, it opens hard and loud right out the gate. But some wearings, this thing is going to go poof, gone. Like, it's almost like, where'd you go? And then it'll come back. And that is one of those, and again, some fragrances in the game, to me personally, they do that to me. Not many do that, but some of them do, and this is one of those that definitely out the gate, this thing is huge. But I'm gonna stick with the 9 to 12 plus hours and the solid projection, not beast mode. But out the gate, this thing is huge though. So my final thoughts on Cuir Intense, and it's finally over. What a beautiful scent. So now you're gonna go back up there with your friends until I'm ready for a full-fledged fragrance review on it. That's gonna take a while. So you're not gonna see a video on this for a while on my channel, but so my final thoughts on this test drive. And you know, I spent several days, probably more than I should have with this one. I already kind of knew what I was getting myself into, so it was more than several days, to be honest. It feels like almost 2-3 weeks of me testing this. My final thoughts here is pretty straightforward. It's an excellent leather. It is, especially to noses that are used to designer leathers or just getting into leathers in the niche realm. This is gonna blow your mind, in my opinion. How a excellent perfumier like Wasser can do with the right compounds to make something so realistic, so bold, so interesting, it will probably blow a lot of people's minds, honestly, especially people that like leathers but never really experienced one that was good enough yet, and they haven't really sniffed a good enough one yet, like a niche one, and just stumbled upon this one. I can tell it's gonna blow their mind. It's realistic. Now, this scent at times felt linear, but it also has understated complexity. The osmanthus is the clear X factor in the opening, which I never got sick of that opening. Like, it's actually almost, let's reapply kind of good. Like, oh, I'm losing my apricot, I want it back. And I never got sick of it, and it dances so well with the leather note. This is in by no means, again, my pedestal of Cuir by Mona Ziorio and Leather Oud by Ziad are my pedestals of leathers, among others, but those are the 1A, 1B, and then the rest follow. And that's the animalic leather genre, so that is my favorite, like the smoky ones too, but those are my favorites. But this one does the job. It really does. And this line kind of gets lost in the Guerlain, you know, the real Guerlain heads that kind of stay away from this, thinking it's like the black sheep of the line. And it's well worth a sniff. I really enjoyed this test drive. Like, I'm not looking forward. What's my next test drive? Oh no, it's Jeremy Fragrance Office for Men. It's a sad day. So, Cuir House, excellent fragrance. If you're into leathers and you haven't smelt this, please do. Please do. I'm done now, and it's time for you to hit us up in the comments below. What do you think of this one? Good, bad, and the ugly. You agree, you disagree with me? Go ham in the comments. Tell us what you think about this release. If anybody has this version and has smelt the new allegorias, like the new bottle design with these fragrances, let us know in the comments. Have they changed? You know, that's always great information in videos like this. Looking forward to reading all these comments, of course. And if you haven't, hit that like button if you haven't already. So there it is, my review on Cuir House by Guerlain. And as always, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your leather-based fragrance wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.